Welcome into the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, the number one rated sportsbook app out there. I'm your host, Rudolph, joined by AJ Haefele. It is an off day for the Avalanche, obviously a big Game 7 coming up, but the NHL doesn't care about our needs for Game 7. Plenty of teams no longer in the bubble have already been hard at work on their off seasons. Some of them already making moves, others just rumors. But with the shortened off season, with the condensed schedule, teams aren't wasting any time. They have quickly started pulling triggers, AJ.
Yeah, I mean, you have business to conduct.
Yep.
And you know, in the past, you would have. You know, there's never been a big gap between the end of the end of the Cup Finals and then
the pop off, basically.
Yeah, and then the off season is usually like a 3-week window.
Yeah.
But this year it's literally a week.
Yep.
The draft is the draft 4th, is supposed to happen. Yeah, it is. And so October 4th, the latest possible date for the Stanley Cup Finals. The draft is supposed to happen 7 days after that, and then free agency is supposed to be mashed in there somewhere. They're going to have to win. Basically, let's just say Colorado wins a Stanley Cup as an example. Colorado wins a Stanley Cup. They have to issue Tyson Jost and Val Nichushkin qualifying offers 2 days later.
Yep.
Those dudes aren't even going to be done with their bubble drunkenness or whatever they're doing
when they receive their QO. Yeah,
right. Like their agents are gonna have to be like, "Hey, you guys get your qualifying offers," and they're not even gonna know what that means.
Yep, no clue.
They're not gonna be able to feel their face, and they're definitely not gonna be able to feel their hands to check their phone. Like that's the reality that these teams are facing, and you know when Pittsburgh and Toronto made the Kapanen trade, which we talked about already, like these dudes knew, like, hey, we've got to get to doing business now. And there are some teams like Toronto has significant business to conduct this year because they have to retool their entire blue line with no money. So that's, you know, with the flat cap and every, you know, all of the trickle down effect of that's now a problem. And so that's why we're seeing the action start up on these things.
Little known fact, the song I Can't Feel My Face With I'm With You was actually written about the Stanley Cup, confirmed on this podcast.
True. True.
But you bring up a good point here, particularly with the flat cap. Teams are panicking. The teams up near the cap are going, oh God, we need to figure this out right now because we don't have the offseason time to do it. And it's showing through. I mean, let's just jump into the first recent trade here. Montreal acquires Jake Allen and a 7th round pick from St. Louis for a 3rd and a 7th going back the other way.
We've talked a number of times about St. Louis not having any money to re-sign Alex Pietrangelo, but they also have Vince Dunn as an RFA.
Yep.
As a guy who's looking for a meaningful raise, who's looking for $3 million, $4 million.
Has earned a legitimate NHL contract, yeah.
Yeah, and they just need money. Previous pods, I said that I imagine they would try and do what they could to trade Jake Allen. I expect them to try and buy out Alexander Steen. We'll see, you know, and we'll see what else they've got up their sleeve. But doing those two things alone would not clear up enough space for just Pietrangelo, let alone Pietrangelo and Dunn. So they've got work to do. You know, I am blessing in disguise. They're out in the first round.
They've got time to work on it.
Yeah, they had a little more time to try and figure this out. So also now they need a backup goaltender because Jake Allen was a saving grace for them this season. When Jordan Binnington
floundered a bit, yeah.
Yeah, when his game got a little unsteady in December and January, Jake Allen was a big reason why that team stayed afloat. If Jake Allen doesn't play as well as he does as he did this year, the Avs win the Central Division.
Yep. They don't really have I guess they could give Ville Husso another shot, but you're not feeling super confident going into a season with your goaltending tandem as Binnington and Husso.
Nope.
No, there's a hard nope.
There's gonna be a major goaltender shakeup this year, just because of there are guys who are gonna move teams. Matt Murray's gonna get traded. Braden Holtby's a free agent. Jacob Markstrom's a free agent.
Oh, Rex is hyped on Braden Holtby apparently.
It was the Matt Murray thing that got him going.
Well, we'll get to Matt Murray. Don't you worry about that.
There's going to be a major shakeup in the goaltending market this summer, and I think St. Louis can wait on that one. But now it's like, okay, well, they've created the need to spend money there. So okay, now they're trying to clear out money to sign Pietrangelo, sign Dunn. Well, they also have to now figure out a way to sign they have to get a backup goaltender, and however much that's going to cost.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think they probably save money by moving Jake Allen out, and they'll sign some, career backup. But
totally. Backup goaltender is the most cost-efficient position in the NHL.
Yep. By a good margin.
You can get decent ones for between $1 million and $2 million every single year. If you're lucky, you can get one for even a little less than $1 million if it's just the right situation. But point is, it won't be hard, but that's still another $1 million that they've got to plan for something.
Yep. Ryan Air asks about tomorrow's start time. We won't know until pretty late tonight because it basically depends on the Vancouver-Vegas game.
Yeah. So for some reason, Vegas and Vancouver's back-to-back in their series was scheduled for games 6 and 7. So if Vegas wins tonight, then the Avs are the only game tomorrow in that building. But if Vancouver pushes it to game 7, then they've got to figure out the schedule for both games. So that's the reason why we're in this holding pattern. We have a watch party that we're trying to plan, and
we have no idea when the game is.
Yeah. So you and I are like, okay, well, what time are we heading to the bar tomorrow? And at this point, I'm just going to head down there at noon and just get day drunk.
It's not destiny that Holtby ends up in Colorado. I know the meme is the Avs always go get the Capitals goalie, but
yeah, I'm not feeling that either.
Holtby does not make a ton of sense for the Avs for a lot of reasons, but the guy who does make sense, well, depending on who you ask, I don't really know if he does or not. But the guy whose name is being floated around is that of Matt Murray. Avs are not here. Pittsburgh has come out. Their GM came out and said, "Look, I've gotten offers for Matt Murray. I just haven't had any that have met what we want for him."
Mm-hmm.
So he's going somewhere eventually. That much seems obvious.
And this is again trying to save money. It's funny we just did that whole thing about Jake Allen. We never once mentioned the Canadiens and how
Montreal got a backup goaltender to carry price.
and they're now spending $15 million on goaltending.
Yeah, well, it's Montreal. I don't know what to tell you on that one.
Well, it's they've tried to go cheap on backups the last couple of years, and it's completely blown up in their face.
Yep,
they've gotten completely rocked. So now they're like, okay, well, we're going to get a veteran that we know is a proven NHL dude, and even though his level may vary, he's
if Carey Price does get hurt, we can put this guy in and feel okay.
You're right. Like Montreal has badly struggled with the backup goaltender position the last couple of years. It turns out Keith Kincaid wasn't actually the answer.
Who knew?
Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Keith Kincaid sub 900 save percentage in New Jersey and goes to Montreal, and not that he was like their main guy, but he was one of a number of guys they tried out there, and it just didn't work out. So now they're spending $15 million on goaltenders, and that does not mean that they're going to turn around and trade Carey Price, nor should the Avalanche be within 10 million freaking miles of that conversation.
Nope.
No.
Hard no. And I
agree. Let me try to repeat this a few more times for the people who continue to think that this is somehow a good. No. I'm sorry. I should have headphones warning.
Warning.
No.
Hard no on Carey Price, top to bottom.
Let me move away from the mic. No. There we go.
Had to really get it out. Tell us how you really feel.
My roommates are gonna think that I'm in trouble.
You want to put some money on that, boss man? Because I'll take that bet. I think the Avs will win, but I don't think they'll score 5 in the first 15.
If they score, I tell you what, if they score 5 in the first 15 minutes, we're in for the most stressful Game 7 ever. Because every moment after that 5th goal becomes hellacious. It's gonna be so frustrating. It's gonna be because you're just gonna be waiting. You're just trying to speed up the clock at that point. Like you love the fact that you're up 5-0. I'm assuming they're up 5-0. You love that fact, but
that's what all the beer from the bar is for.
To make it go faster.
Yeah.
It's a great point.
They get up 5-0 and you drink enough that you don't remember the rest of the game. Problem solved.
That's right. Yeah, and then you guys are gonna throw me on a post-game podcast set and ask me to talk about it, and I'm gonna be like, I don't know. You guys fed me too much beer.
Kind of bringing it back into on topic here. Montreal has enough cap space to make that work for the most part, other than we'll see what they do with Max Domi. But
I know I can tell you what they're going to do with Max Domi.
Trade him?
Yeah, he's going to end up in Colorado.
Woo! He's just going to drop that passively? I mean, I know we've talked about it before, but...
I mean, they tried to... The Avs made serious play for him when Arizona was trying to get rid of him. I'm of the opinion that's what they were up to at the deadline.
I mean, it wouldn't be the first time the Avs had a target and go back to the well for it.
They like the guys they like.
Yep.
The Burakovsky thing was revisited twice. So they scout guys, they coveted John Bernier for a decade.
Yep.
And as soon as he became a free agent, they were like, get him.
And they did. They always get their man.
Yeah, like they eventually get guys, the guys that they covet. But anyway, I'm sorry. I turned this into more talking about Montreal again.
That's okay. We'll save the other conversation for period 2 anyway, because we do have to acknowledge our sponsors like Breckenridge Brewery, the beer you can get down at the DNVR bar. 8 different beers on tap, including AJ's favorite, the Strawberry Sky. Already see him thinking about it over there. I
think the vanilla porter, man.
Yeah, I know. You keep telling me, and I'm still incredulous that it's actually your favorite.
So am I, because I'm just not a big porter fan, but it's just so good.
Vanilla Porter Jr. then, that is a good one as well. They have a beer for everyone. Obviously, you can get it at the bar, but you can also get it at your local liquor store. Go online, use their Breck beer locator to find any type of beer you want and pick it up for yourself. Give it a try today. And our DraftKings picks of the week, AJ. They say don't bet on your own sports, so we're both going basketball on this one today.
Yeah, that's right.
I think you have the the better bet here, to be honest with you. But
yeah, Nikola Jokic to get a triple-double. It's been a while.
Yeah.
It's been a while, and I feel like it's time. You know, their first round series was dominated by Jamal Murray having basically the series that announced his arrival as a star in the NBA. You know, I'm cynical enough to have been hurt before, so we'll see. But I'm buying Jokic as this is a better matchup. He's not going to have Rudy Gobert all over him against the Clippers. And so I like his. I like the chances that that Jokic goes off for a triple-double in this one.
Yoke plus 350 to get the triple-double tonight. Still time to get your bets in. I went with riding the hot hand there. Jamal Murray popped off in the first round. I say he scores the first field goal of the game at plus 500.
Oh, you're going prop bet on me?
Yep.
Oh man, I love those. I used to do prop bets all the time for who would win the opening faceoff.
The penny prop bets, the best.
In NHL, in the NHL prop bets. I love that opening faceoff one. I thought that was so fun. It gave meaning to something that we all just sort of eye roll our way through every night.
It's like, okay, let's start the game now, please.
Yeah. It's just like, okay, let's just get this going, and then whatever will happen. Nobody ever cares who wins or loses it. It's just like, whatever. Just put the puck in play. Like they could spice it up if they decided to skip the opening faceoff and just like shoot the puck out of a cannon and have them go chase it down.
There you go. That's Columbus's home ice advantage as they launch the cannon into the offensive zone.
That's right.
That's what I'm talking about right there. I want to see the betting odds on that. But our two bets sticking with basketball today. DraftKings Sportsbook, the #1 rated sportsbook app out there. Sign up today and use code DNVR when you sign up for a limited time. A bunch of amazing offers, including essentially free money if you want to bet on the Kansas City Chiefs not losing by 100 points. So jump on it today. Obviously love their product. Amazing bets every single week. Their odds boosts are awesome. Once you do download for a limited time only, DraftKings Sportsbook is giving you all sorts of bonuses. Just go in there and check it out. They have rotating ones, so keep an eye on it. Must be 21 or older, Colorado only. Other terms and conditions, restrictions as well apply. See DraftKings.com/sportsbook for details. Gambling problem, call 1-800-522-4700. Second period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. So, yes, it's a conversation we've had before, but let's dive into the Matt Murray conversation again. You feel a little bit different about it. You have to feel a little bit different about it after what has been Francouz's performance in this series.
So, a couple things happened.
Yep.
Grubauer got hurt.
Yep.
And this is the third injury of Grubauer's season. Now, you can't look at Grubauer's career as a body of work and say he's been injury prone. That's not fair because it's not true. But what happened his first 4 years in Washington health-wise when he was very clearly a backup?
Yeah, how relevant is that to a starter position?
The 2 years in which the Avalanche have tried to let him take the starting goaltender job, especially this past season. Let's be honest here, he just didn't do it.
Yep.
He never once had a stranglehold on the position.
The ceiling is there, but the consistency just hasn't been.
Right. And he got hurt just as his play was rounding into form in the spring.
Yep. Which
opened up the door for Francouz, who played great. And then in the summer, it's just, he comes back. He was playing just fine.
Yeah, until he gets hurt.
Like nobody will tell you he was like dominating or anything, but against Arizona, he one, he didn't have to do very much, but two, he did everything asked of him. When you're giving up 1 goal a game, you're doing fine. Like,
yep.
even if you're only facing 15 shots a game, you're fine.
Yeah, I think if we're talking about the Grubauer side of this, the other thing is, look, we now know Grubauer has left the bubble and gone home. which indicates a certain level of seriousness to whatever the injury may be.
And because we've talked about this quick turnaround.
Yep.
You have next season in doubt now, where you wonder, okay, what if he gets the same? So if it's this is purely hypothetical, but if it was a groin pull or a groin tear, and he had to get the same kind of hip surgery that Varley got, that really truly helped him, the recovery time on that means that you don't have a goaltender for next year.
Recovery time is what, 4 to 6 months on something like that?
Yeah.
So you're looking at, depending on when next season starts, he could come in.
To clarify, for right now, camps are slated to open on November 17th, and opening night is supposed to be December 1st.
Yeah. So even if you
after finishing on October 4th at the latest.
So if you take the shortest side of that, let's say Grubauer has surgery today and we just don't know about it.
Right.
4-month minimum, he's missing at least the first month of next season.
Right. And if it's more like 6 months,
that's well over half the season that he's realistically missing.
Exactly. So you have it's not a thing of, and again, like there let us be clear, there were a lot of leaps just made to get to that
for all we know, Grubauer will be good to go on November 17th.
Straight up. Like, he rolls in there and he's totally fine.
Yeah.
Like, we just don't know that. But the team doesn't know that either. I can guarantee you the team right now doesn't know the next time Philip Grubauer is going to be healthy.
Yep.
And they have business to conduct, and they look, when they went and got Grubauer, what situation were they coming off of?
Varley.
They were coming off of Varley getting run at the end of the year in a game against Chicago that meant nothing to them, and some scrubbo that's not in the NHL anymore decided to take a free run at Varley, and he hurt his knee.
Yep.
Which was bullshit, because Varley had been playing great, and I'm sorry, I'm still just salty about that whole thing. And
that playoffs looks a whole lot different if Varley's healthy for him, put it that way.
Maybe, right? Like, maybe things go a little bit better. But then they had John Bernier. John Bernier just wasn't quite healthy either. Then they had to turn to Andrew Hammond in that series. So what did they do? They went out and they were like, okay, we don't want a starter and a backup. We want 2 starters.
Yep. So
because that way, if one of them goes down, we're fine.
Yep.
They had reason to believe that they had at least a low-level starter in Pavel Francouz based on his 1 year in the NHL. You and I were more iffy on that, but hey, there was the guy had risen to the occasion more often than not.
Yep.
And then obviously, and we can't sit here and act like Francouz's struggles just in that series against Dallas, because he played other games and he was good in those games. Yeah. But just in that series against Dallas, he was bad.
Not good.
And it doesn't undo the entire body of work that he had built to that point. But the playoffs is where you make your money. It's where you get your legacy. It's where everything is elevated. And that's just the reality. That's just truth. And at that point, Francouz took himself out of starting goaltender conversation.
Yeah, you cannot be comfortable as the Avs starting Francouz at the start of next year. That
right
after those playoffs, you just can't.
So this is why we're having this conversation. Matt Murray, I don't think, is the favorite answer for either one of us.
I mean, the favorite answer is completely unrealistic, probably, for both of us. But
you're talking about John Gibson again?
Yeah. But yes, I agree. I don't know that Matt Murray would be the best reasonable target for the Avs either. For the record, I don't think they should go after Fleury at all either. But
oh Lord, no.
So
if they can't retain Robin Lehner, I would start there.
Oh yeah, 100%. If Lehner
doesn't cost you anything,
yeah. that's a whole different conversation that I'm sure we will have in whatever our offseason is. But
yeah. But Matt Murray, the appeal is obvious. He had 2 playoff runs in which he was spectacular, leading them to a Stanley Cup. He has 1 excellent regular season, 1 good regular season, 1 below average regular season, and 1 bad regular season. So results are all over the board there. Yep. And at 26 years old, you'd be making a big commitment there.
He is an RFA at the end of the year, currently making $3.75 million. Very, very likely looking for a good chunk of change more than that.
Yeah, probably going to get a deal somewhere between $5 and $6 million.
Yep. So that is your goaltender for the rest of McKinnon's current contract, at the very least, if you go that route.
Yeah. I have been pretty against the idea of chasing after Braden Holtby because he hasn't been good in the regular season for 3 full years now. And at what point do you kind of just think that it's gone? But then to turn around and look at Matt Murray's career and be like, well, 2 out of the last 3 have not been very good. And his postseason performances since those 2 cup runs have only just been okay. Like, he wasn't their problem against Montreal, but he also wasn't spectacular.
2 things there. One, the allure of Murray compared to Holtby is Murray is 26. Holtby is 30. Which 30 isn't that old for a goaltender, but if you have a goaltender who's trending in the wrong direction and isn't getting any younger, that's already making $6 million.
Yeah.
Are you putting yourself in a little bit of a dicey proposition there? And look, especially given the flat cap in the market, Holtby's probably not going to be making as much on his next deal. But still, he's not going to be cheap.
Yeah.
And
I mean, look, if Jacob Markstrom gets to free agency, he's your perfect middle point between those guys, right?
Exactly. Yep.
He's coming off of a career year, which you're always a little nervous about in free agency, but he also had a good year last year. I mean, it wasn't great, but it was solid. And he's age appropriate, like he's not 35 years old. He's a guy that you'd be comfortable giving a 5 or 6 year deal to.
Oh, Markstrom's 30. I thought he was younger than that.
I thought he was 28.
Yeah, so did I.
Is he 30?
Yep.
All right. Well, that's problematic. But anyway, goaltenders at 30 are different than skaters at 30.
Right. Again, you're always wondering about the fall off, but we do see goalies play into their late 30s regularly. So you have to weigh a lot of things, to say the least there. What Markstrom has that Murray doesn't is consistency. All right. All 5 of his last 5 seasons, his lowest save percentage is a .910, which isn't great, but it's passable. And over the last 3 seasons, it's .912, .912, .918. And in 2 of those seasons, he played 60 games. So availability, definitely a strength for him.
Yeah.
So the Avs, the thing is, they don't have to make a decision here. They could go into next season with Pavel Francouz and Philip Grubauer if and when he's healthy, with a backup of Hutchinson, Miska, whoever they want to keep around as a third goaltender, Adam Werner, whatever.
I mean, at that point, it makes sense to just ride Hutchinson out there again, right?
Yep.
Because you know that he's going to cost you $900,000.
Cheap.
I guess unless he wins your Stanley Cup this year, then maybe he costs a little bit more.
You can let someone else pay that price if he wins a cup and people want him. So
then go get Anthony Stolarz.
Sure, whatever. Which makes this conversation interesting. But there's a lot of speculation here. That's the thing. Outside of Murray, which is the one name that has been thrown around out there quite a bit, That's why his name is coming up, is because Pittsburgh is pretty much actively shopping him.
Yeah.
So I think it's near certain that Murray is gone from Pittsburgh. I just don't know where he lands, and the Avs are somewhere on that list.
And it's going to be a competitive market for him. It's not like, it's not like there's one other team that they're going to be competing with here. A 26-year-old goaltender with his track record is going to fetch a decent haul for Pittsburgh.
Yep. Look, I'm all about the Justus Annunen hype, but either something terrible has happened or he is a prodigy if he plays an NHL game in the next 2 years.
Yeah, straight up. Yeah, you have Mickey. If he realistically, I don't think we see Justus Annunen in an Avalanche sweater on McKinnon's current contract. That's kind of
agree.
That's kind of the window that they're building around right now.
Yep.
That's sort of like in the immediate, they're building around that.
Yeah.
But they...
In a world where whatever McKinnon's next contract looks like, a way that they could save money is Justus Annunen as a starter on a second deal if he's a quality goaltender. Yeah.
Well, and that's where maybe you get a John Gibson type deal, right?
Yep.
Where you get a 5-year. I think his is an 8-year deal, and
lock up long-term type situation.
Yeah, and it's for great goalie money, but none of this crazy $10 million.
Yep.
So I guess that's the other name we haven't talked about is Freddie Anderson.
Yep. That is the other one.
I mean, for me, I think an Anderson Grubauer swap with the Avs would have to throw something else in there, but it makes sense because it saves Toronto money. It doesn't make sense because I don't think Grubauer's better than Anderson.
You're pretty much swapping the same guy for himself, I think, in a lot of ways.
I like Freddie Anderson more, but he's more expensive, and I think he has only a year left until UFA, and so you're talking about a bigger raise, and
if you're going and getting Freddie Anderson, you're essentially just kicking the can down the road a year. Really, is what you're doing.
Which, if Grubauer's hurt, it's
maybe not the worst idea. Sure,
yeah, it's you're like, no, this could be worse, right?
Yeah. I think that's definitely fair, but we do have to take our second period break here. Strava Craft Coffee, the CBD infused coffee that has really changed lives. You can get it at the DNVR bar as well now. Cold brew for these hot days that just keep coming. I know it's supposed to get cold on Tuesday, but these days in the 90s, man, they got to stop. It's way too hot.
They're going to. It's going to snow next week.
Yeah, I know. Tuesday it's supposed to snow, and then the next day it's supposed to be right back to 85 or whatever. So got the cold brew. At least to cool you off a little bit. You can help with anxiety. It's helps with back pain, IBS, you name it. Bunch of awesome stuff. Give Strava Craft Coffee a try today. You can also order online and use code DNVR20 at checkout to get 20% off your purchase. Third period of the DNVR Avalanche Podcast, presented by DraftKings Sportsbook. There are still other news, other things going on in and around the league. Some more pertinent than others. Down in Florida, they hired a new GM, Bill Zito. Another guy coming out of Columbus, I found a bit curious. They seem to just manufacture front office characters down there that go to all the other teams around the league. But I don't know a ton about the guy, and I wish him good luck in digging out a franchise that has struggled in the front office for a long, long time.
Got a 5-year deal.
Yep.
And so you'd like to see him actually get to see his vision through.
Not get it chopped 2 years through.
Right. And it's, if it's a complete disaster, you'll know, quickly. But you'd like to, there's a lot of talent already on that roster, and I think they're probably gonna lose Hoffman and Dadonov, and I think they'll be totally fine.
Yeah, they have plenty of forward talent. It's not a huge deal to them.
All their best prospects are forwards, so The question will be, can they manage to balance their roster a little bit? Are they kind of looking in the same sort of situation as Winnipeg, where they maybe want to deal one of those forwards for a defenseman that can help them? Would they be interested in a Nikita Zadorov or a Nikita Zadorov? Really, maybe a Ryan Graves. Like, would they have any interest in that? Where
there's a third-ish pairing solid NHL D that they can pick up.
Right. And the Avs could get one of those forwards out of there, could pry a forward from them.
Yep.
Though with them losing Hoffman and Dadonov, replacing them with cost-efficient dudes, I think it gets a little tougher. But
yeah, I mean, they have the giant elephant of Bobrovsky's contract too to deal with down there.
Yeah,
but
definitely. But point is that they're gonna have that guy. That guy's got a lot of work ahead.
Avalanche doing my segue work for me. Tyson Barrie and Torrey Krug quickly becoming the two offensive defenseman names on the docket for this offseason.
Yeah, kind of a decent little
class that's coming together there on the defensive side. Yeah,
with Barrie, Krug, and Pietrangelo looking like there's a realistic shot those guys go to market. At forward, you've got, it looks like Taylor Hall's going to get there. Sorry for your next segue if that was it. Taylor Hall and the guys, the Florida guys I just mentioned, Hoffman and Dadonov, are all quality players. So will be interesting. The Tyson Barrie market, I think, has always been interesting because he's just his own brand of player.
Yeah, you have to, unlike Toronto and Mike Babcock, you have to understand what you're getting when you acquire a Tyson Barrie, and you gotta
just let him be.
Yep, he has to just do his thing for it to function.
Yeah, and you'll just have to live with it. The highs are going to be really high where the guy just catches absolute fire.
Yep.
And the lows are going to be frustrating and they're going to suck. I've felt like Winnipeg is the perfect landing spot for him for a long time. They could use a little puck moving help because sorry, but I'm not buying Neil Pionk. And they need any kind of anybody with a pulse on the right side to help that defense out.
I do wonder. I mean, I don't know. Outside of Winnipeg having trouble recruiting players in general, is that somewhere Tyson Barrie would want to go? I don't know.
I mean, that's we don't ever have the answer to those questions, right? Like we don't know. The Avs no. Yeah, there's no. The Avs don't need to do that.
Byram Timmons pretty much snuff out any conversation about TV4 coming home.
Certainly Byram
would
end that conversation right off the top, in my opinion. So no.
That's in 5-10 years we'll see. Well, 10 he'd be retired, but at the end of this contract, his next contract maybe, we'll see. But the other one out there, Torrey Krug, has been pretty vocal in the public eye saying, look, this is my one chance to get a real big money contract. So sounds like someone who's headed towards the open market.
Well, it sounds like someone who knows he's looking for $8 million and somebody's going to find a way to give it to him. I love Torrey Krug, for the record. I love him. I don't think he makes any sense.
Not for the Avs, no.
Yeah, he doesn't make any sense for the same reasons that we just dismissed Tyson Barrie. He doesn't make any sense for Colorado.
Yep.
I tell you, if they're able to find the cap room, dropping him on that Dallas defense, I think
that'd be another bullet in the chamber. Heiskanen, Klingberg, Krug, and then even someone like Johns would when he's healthy.
Yeah, and then having Alexiak and Lindell is kind of your
roundouts. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that would be. I'm nervous. Like, it's funny because Dallas, whatever, right? But they get involved in big stuff in the offseason every single year. And
that's all. Like, I almost wonder if that would be Dallas going too far in that direction. And like, at what point do you hit the point where you're just over committing to these offensive minded puck movers and you need someone who actually can shut down defense? Because Alexiak's fine, but he's not like a stud at it. And Lindell is solid defenseman, but overpaid.
Yeah.
So I do wonder if they need someone a little bit more well-rounded than Krug, but certainly whoever gets him is going to feel pretty happy with the acquisition. I also don't know that them trying to squeeze more offense out of their blue line as an already defensively oriented team
is the best way to do it. But I think anything that makes them more dynamic, moving the puck from one end to the other, is something that they should consider. And that's where, maybe they want a guy that's a little more traditionally two-way.
Yeah.
But those guys are hard to find. Like, two-way guys are truly hard to find because most of these guys get to the NHL because they can do one or the other really, really well.
Yeah.
Most of these guys getting to the NHL. Most of these guys spend most of their careers excelling on power plays or penalty kills. And that's what gets them into the league and gets them their opportunities. Finding two-way guys is just really hard. You know where you find two-way guys? In the friggin' top 10 of the draft.
And let's be honest, as Heiskanen continues to round out, he's kind of that guy. So,
oh yeah, he's absolutely that guy. It's just, how do you find a lesser version of that guy to kind of help them out, and
round out their top six? Yeah,
yeah. But that's where I think Dallas is going to have a fascinating offseason, because if they lose tomorrow, you look at their roster, they are still locked into about half their forward core, and all of those guys are old.
I think the most interesting thing about Dallas's offseason is going to be, they're going to look back at this playoffs and say, look, we played nothing like we did for most of the regular season, and it worked for us in the playoffs.
Yeah.
So do they have to really sit down and seriously consider an entire change in philosophy and how they want to build that organization? And if they do, that's when they have to start considering, well, Jamie Benn's not getting any younger and hasn't been great for us.
Yeah, I think if they, to a man, I think they would tell you if they could get rid of Jamie Benn for a decent, like a solid package.
Yeah.
I think get rid of, that's not the connotation I want. If they could move Jamie Benn for a solid like futures package, which included at least one NHL
player
ready or proven guy, I think they would do it, because you don't have to be a freaking rocket scientist to see that since hip surgery, 79, 53, 39. He's getting worse.
Yeah.
He's getting worse in a hurry as he is getting no cheaper. He's still making $9.5 million. He's 31 years old, and he has 5 years left on that deal. Now, he's had a very productive postseason, which might give them a little bit of pause, as he has had 12 points in 15 games. But
again, you have to question those numbers a little bit, given the scenario. And that it's the highest scoring postseason in a long, long time.
Well, and that both of their the goaltenders that they will have gone against in the first two rounds will have been Cam Talbot, Pavel Francouz, and Michael Hutchinson.
Yeah. And again, Dallas's highest scoring stretch in over 12 months of hockey.
Yeah. So I don't know. We're getting sort of sidetracked here by this whole Dallas thing.
We are.
I think that they are going to be, they're always, in the way that St. Louis has always interjected themselves into big stuff over the years, Dallas has always been players. They always want to be players. They're willing to spend money. They have an aggressive mindset. They're trying to win right now. They basically have to win right now because they don't have a ton in the pipeline. And seriously, they're old. Their average age of their forward core right now is 29.5.
That is old.
Dude, the average age, for comparison, Colorado's is 26.6.
So nearly 3 full years difference across the board.
Whereas the Avs forward core has all of 2 guys who are 30 years old in Belmar and Calvert.
Yep. Where Dallas has Pavelski, Radulov, Ben. There's another one that I'm not thinking of.
They also have Cogliano and Como.
And so 6 30-year-old forwards.
And Ben is the youngest at 31. Their ages of their forwards, by price, it's ridiculous. It's 28, 31, 36, 34, 33, 34. And then there's a Corey Perry somewhere in there. And Denis Gurianov and Rupe Hintz they need new contracts and they're coming off career years.
Yep. Then you wonder why we think that team scoring isn't sustainable.
Right. So anyway, they're gonna be interesting to see what they look like and where they go. I think that I don't know. Torrey Krug, I think, makes a lot of sense for them, but they could really. They're also the guys that will go out and they'll try and sign both Dadonov and Hoffman.
Yeah,
and just get even older and just
don't care. Work. We're all in, baby.
It's gonna work. So,
well, we'll have to wait and see. I think that's most of the news, AJ, unless you got anything else you really wanted to touch on.
Arizona's still desperate to keep Taylor Hall.
Yeah, that's true. Let
me pitch a crazy idea to you.
Okay.
You're Arizona.
Uh-huh.
You have no first round picks for the next 2 seasons.
Yep.
You don't have a second round pick or a third round pick this year. So you have no first, second, or third this year.
Yep.
You have no first, and I think it's going to be no second.
Yeah, because it's the conditional second, right?
Yeah, okay. So it will be a third. They will get to keep next year's second. So
okay.
They will lose first and third from this and next season,
so they have
and then
second round pick single in the next 2 years.
Exactly. That's the only pick they have in the top 3 rounds for 2 years, and that's a team that also is old at forward and older at forward and needs help. Their most attractive asset right now has to be Darcy Kuemper at 30 years old, and he's making $4.5 million starting next year. If the Avs were going to have a conversation about goaltenders.
As the Avs, I think you seriously need to have the conversation. Personally, I think Darcy Kuemper's a giant mirage and want nothing to do with him. I do not buy 2 years of incredible play on a goaltender that for most of his career couldn't even figure out how to be a regular backup. I just don't trust it, man. I don't trust it at all.
Okay.
Give me the counter argument, because I know you at least a little interested in it.
I just think that's you're talking about an asset poor team. Maybe you just throw a first round pick for that guy. I'm not saying
feels it does. I guess I don't know. The Avs gave up a second and a third for Grubauer. Is that what it was?
No, they gave up a second only because they also took Brooks Orpik.
That's what it was. They took him, and they bought him out. Yeah, you're right. So Coyotes don't really need any contracts bought out, so you can't really go about it that way.
They could. I mean, they're up against the cap. Like, they're smashed against it. Maybe they would.
So that's the play. You open up the room for them to actually keep Taylor Hall.
No, I don't think he wants to stay there.
I don't think he does either.
But maybe they want to move one of these old expensive defensemen that they have. Maybe they want to move Hjalmarsson. 33 years old, $5 million, and maybe that's what the Avs do for a year. Instead of they move out Zadorov and do something else, and Hjalmarsson, they take that money off Arizona's hands and they get Kuemper as well.
Yeah,
and Arizona gets a low first round pick. I
guess the weird thing with Kuemper is he's making $4.5 million for the next 2 years.
Yeah,
and it does feel like you have more decisions to make because that'll leave 1 year additionally left on McKinnon's current contract.
Yeah, but Kuemper. All I'm saying is if he was able to roll into Colorado and play the way that he did in Arizona behind the Avs.
The Avs win a cup if he plays like that in Colorado.
Then
they just do.
Right. And then are you that worried about what you're paying him in 2 years?
No. I'm just saying what happens if you get there and they haven't won a cup? What if Kuemper hasn't been the guy he was in Arizona? Then where do you go next?
Shades of gray, right?
Right, of course.
But I would also say that to circle back here, this is why Matt Murray is so intriguing to a lot of teams, because at 26 years old, teams are going to be a lot more patient with him.
Yep.
With Darcy Kuemper, even with Philip Grubauer, when the Avs went and got Grubauer, they gave him a 3-year deal, and we're going into the 3rd year. We haven't learned
pretty much anything.
We haven't learned anything really concrete about the guy, and he's going to be 29 in November.
Yep.
So it's not like there's a youth factor there. You look at Darcy Kuemper and you would say Darcy Kemper's proven more as a starter than Philip Grubauer has.
That's probably true.
I think it's absolutely true. You look at their body of work, and one of them's been a workhorse for an NHL team, and the other one hadn't been.
Yeah, sure. I agree with that. I still don't know how real Kemper's numbers are, but
I don't know how real any goaltender's numbers are ever. Fair, and maybe that's where, and this is where I'm saying, maybe they just say, hey, this guy seems to have clicked something. He's turned a corner. Let's go and grab this guy. He put the fear of God into us for 4 whole days, and let's put our team in front of that guy.
At the end of the day, with a goaltender, you're shooting your shot, right?
If they had Darcy Kuemper in this series against Dallas, we're not here.
Over. Yeah.
So, you look at his numbers, Kemper's numbers are so stupid from this postseason.
Yep. It's outrageous.
Because, goals against average is not something that I put a lot of stock into because it's so team.
Yeah.
Exactly. But you look at it always varies between 2.2 is really low and 2.8 is a little bit high. And then you look at what Darcy Kuemper did. Do you know what his finals playoff numbers ended up being?
I don't.
He finished with a 3.47 goals against average because the Avs lit him up so badly.
7-goal game. Well, he wasn't in for all 7, but yeah.
And he finished with a .913 save percentage.
Yeah. If you look up his goal saved above average from the Nashville series and then the first couple games against the Avs, it's outrageous.
Yeah.
The guy played outside of his body. It was insane.
Yeah.
It's right. If he can keep playing like that and you go out and get him, you're going to look like a genius.
Yeah.
So
I'm just saying it's a team that is now desperate for assets. Because
true.
their avenues for improvement are extremely limited. With essentially no premium draft picks the next 2 years. And they have they don't have a ton coming up. The Soderstrom and Barrett Hayton aren't enough to make me think that that's the difference between a big step forward for that franchise and where they are today.
So I don't know that I could be talked into this, but if I were to come around on Kuemper, it'd have to be the 21 first because the Avs don't have a second this season.
Well, if they win tomorrow and they end up with their first
27 to 31, sure.
Yeah. I would do this year. I understand what I totally understand this though.
Without getting too far in the weeds of, the Avs could make a move for a second round pick at the draft floor or whatever.
Yeah. That's a Zadorov move, right?
Right, exactly. But
that's a move I think that's a move you and I think there's a good chance they make anyway.
Yeah. Just given what their defense is shaping up to look like future wise, but
yeah. Plus, hey, the Darcy Kuemper for 2 years also provides you a nice bridge to use to Sandinen if you want it.
Yeah, I mean,
that third year is the only iffy.
You have to go shopping then too, because you're not keeping Grubauer and Francouz and Darcy Kuemper, and maybe Arizona takes Francouz or Grubauer back. I don't know. But
yeah, I would say offer Francouz.
Sure,
and whatever. Francouz in a first for Darcy Kuemper.
It feels like a mistake from Arizona, right? But maybe they're so desperate. They have a new GM.
I mean, I would ask for more. This is a guy that's been unbelievable in net for the last 2 years.
I mean, I'm not going to have the whole breakdown debate here.
It would be like, if I'm from Colorado's perspective, I'd be like, look, I'll give you Francouz, I'll give you a first, and if you want another prospect, then I will give you a Drew Hellison, Sampo Ranta caliber of prospect. They're not going to get one of the top guys. But after that,
obviously not. I'd have to look at what Arizona's prospect needs are a little bit more.
Warm bodies.
Well, sure, but warm bodies ain't going to get you their one valuable asset. I don't know. I think that's a really interesting conversation. For all we know, it's one we'll be diving into heavily on Monday, depending on how things shake out.
Is that a true story, sir?
Been contacted by a lot of people. Once we get to the offseason, I know people have talked about Patrick Laine. I know people have hit me up about Domi, all sorts of other things. We'll get there when the Avs get there. But as long as they're playing playoff hockey, that's going to be our main focus. So we did a little bit of a show here today on it since the Avs had a day off. But tomorrow we got the big Game 7. We're going to have a post-game pod from the bar. Hope all y'all guys will watch the game and tune into us. Win or lose, we'll have something good for you on the show. We're going to get out of here for the day. As always, thank you for watching, listening, however you consume the podcast. And until next time, we are out of here.